Greetings, sentient beings. This broadcast is not intended for children. There will be strong language and adult themes. Although heading it off today, we had wanted to give recognition of Juneteenth, which is something that unfortunately a lot of Americans are still not aware of. But Juneteenth is a holiday mostly celebrating the Black community to commemorate the day that basically that slavery ended in the U.S.
Isn't it more specifically Texas?
Yeah, well, it was on June 19th, 1865, that Union Major General Gordon Granger got to Texas with a contingent of Union soldiers to inform everybody that the Civil War was over, even though the Emancipation Proclamation had been signed 2 years earlier, and basically to inform everybody that they had to let the slaves go, which, of course, there were a lot of people who still didn't want to do that.
That's insane.
Now, an interesting development that apparently yesterday, a bill actually passed the U.S. Senate to have Juneteenth declared a national holiday. I'm really surprised that they got Republicans to back this, and I think the Republicans are probably just trying to do some damage control so that when it comes up when it comes up to their constituents that they're doing everything they can to keep blacks from voting, they want to be able to turn around and say, see, we supported the Black community.
That's what it always comes down to. It's kind of token politics. They're doing this to save face. Because if they hadn't done it in the first place, they would have got trashed. Just like Marjorie Greene Taylor, or whatever her name is, she basically had to say, hey, I now know what the Holocaust is. I'm going to stop being an idiot and stop saying stupid things about it, That's how far gone the Republican Party is.
And seriously, could anyone have gotten to be adult age and not know what the Holocaust was?
So when I was a kid, they took us to the Museum of Tolerance. So where I'm from, 7 and 8 year olds know.
Well, I certainly won't consider myself an example because I grew up in a predominantly Jewish community. So there were a number of people where I was growing up that still had the concentration camp numbers burned into their arm.
Exactly. I kind of grew up around that generation as well. So even with today's generation, it's shocking to me when people even make jokes or even make light of something like Juneteenth. Because I think as each generation goes past, we become more and more desensitized. How do you feel about that?
Sorry.
That's okay.
I just wanted to acknowledge who we've got in the side chat here today. We've got Godless Granny, Harmonica Man, and Jaded Atheist and Math Pig are people we don't normally see in here. So thank you all for coming and, throwing in 2 cents. And if somebody out there wants to join in, let us know.
I think what happens is people forget the past. They become desensitized, and then it just becomes, but let's get over it. Let's stop talking about it kind of thing,
Yeah.
Where we need to keep talking about it to remind ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
The fact that we even allow or are still talking about Nazis is kind of shocking to me. Or that we even put up with people in any way, shape, or form that claim to be or wear Nazi regalia, That's why we have to keep the lesson going.
Yeah, and that there are actually organized groups in this country who are trying to somehow paint that as being a good thing. That it's okay to identify as being a Nazi and that they are somehow redeeming.
It's because we don't hold people to standards anymore, and people turn a blind eye, and they're like, oh, if this person doesn't hurt me, if they don't, like, people used to call people like that out, and it kind of got stamped out. And I think we're allowing the ignorant to be at the table, and it's creating a problem.
Hmm.
Like Holocaust deniers, people identified as Nazis, bigots, they shouldn't even be given a platform. To tell you the honest truth. I know I'm going super woke lefty on this one, but
Oh, I'm kind of confused about that myself, or not so much confused, but undecided. I mean, I totally agree with you there. The more, of course, airtime these bad ideas get, the worse it is. But at the same time, if we don't talk about these things, and like the very thing you said, we forget, and if we don't talk about things from time to time,
there's a difference between like what we're doing, discussing it, and then allowing someone who's a Nazi in the discussion.
yeah, there definitely is, yeah.
And
It's,
that's like, sorry, go ahead.
It saddens, even angers me that there are Nazis, and it's it makes me wonder. Did my granddad fight Nazis in the Second World War for nothing?
Same thing, and even I don't know. I agree with you. I think about that often. That's why on my Twitter I have a patch that says "Kill Nazis like your grandfather did," because I think people, and I'm not endorsing murder or anything like that, but I'm saying like there was a generation that gave their lives to make sure that these people don't exist anymore, and we've allowed them to creep back in our society. And it's an idea, you can't stomp out ideas, but you can sure punch someone in the face. Sorry. It's a beautiful day, so I had to smoke out here. But I'm a confrontational lefty, I don't promote violence, but if someone steps to me, I'm not going to necessarily turn the other cheek. I know it's shocking. I'm talking about race nerdy. One day, I wish I didn't have to. Tell you the honest truth.
Yeah, well, and unfortunately, if you look, there's a big correlation between the Nazis and the Trump supporters and the Confederate flags. And that's I think a lot of that really comes down to that. Yeah, it goes with the way the Civil War is taught. That so many people, in so many areas in the South, that the Civil War, the Civil War generals, the Confederates, are still held up as being some kind of heroes for fighting for state rights.
Which makes me laugh that people that are so proud celebrate losers in second place. I don't know how many things I've owned that I've named William Tecumseh Sherman. It's still in the South. We jokingly say, like, in Georgia, if Ox is here, I'm not South bashing. No, because I do South bash. So that's my lying disclaimer, because I do. But, I know people that are still fighting Reconstruction right now in Louisiana and parts of Georgia. 200-something odd years removed, But again, it's what we allow. So these people have been allowed to perpetuate this backwards way of thinking, and shocker, they're still here, What can we do to really stomp it out?
Well,
Besides moving to a different planet.
well,
That was
then
my, that was my
the
first
problem
guess.
is where it's, it's still systematic that what we need to do is proper education. And there are entire states that are opposed to the proper education.
True.
Mm.
True. It's just it seems frustrating. That's why sometimes, well, not sometimes, a lot, I turn off my computer and just disconnect. Because it seems like, I don't know if it's because of information, but it's more in our face. Because where I live, people genuinely live in peace, and usually it's like some misguided person on drugs is breaking into someone's car. That's usually like the worst thing that goes on around here.
It's pretty much the same where I live. There is a lot of crime, but it's not like crime ridden and like most of the time everybody's pretty well safe.
Would you consider it more like petty? Like I wouldn't say car theft is petty crime, but like non-violent crimes.
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah, here too.
Yeah.
But
Well, we've got a lot of Trumpers around here, and there's, even a fair number of Confederate flags, but I don't really think that people around here are likely to get violent about it. They're just stupid.
I think that's part of the problem too, because okay, so I live in a land of Trumpers, even though I live in the sea of blue in LA County or whatever, because of my job and like we've been, I help distribute clothes to the homeless and stuff. You would be shocked how many people have turned in Trump shirts or weird like nationalistic. It's the strangest thing. We cut them up and use them for scrap for vehicles and stuff. But it's the weirdest thing of how I don't know, the whole right wing thing. I think a lot of it is performative, and like you said, it is misguided. And people join these things because they're disenfranchised and they have nothing left in their life.
Yeah, Jaden Atheist is saying the governor of South Dakota passed an executive order banning critical race theory and trying to revamp the history curriculum to teach our students that America is the greatest country in the world.
Sick.
Yikes.
And okay, even if you wanted to accept that America is the greatest country in the world, that still doesn't automatically mean that we can't be fucked up in some serious ways at the same time.
I think it's pretty arrogant for any country to say that they're the greatest country in the world. Because I've been quite a few places on this globe, and there's a few places that if I ever have the time, I would move there and never come back. A couple islands off of Greece.
That's nationalistic, isn't it?
Very much so. But in America, like I always think back to my upbringing. My father was a complete flag shagger. My mother was as well. They were like rah Americans, to the point where it was almost like a religion. I was a Boy Scout, shocker, and we used to march in 4th of July parades with the Vietnam veterans and hold flags in front of them. Like it was extremely nationalistic,
Yeah, I went through that growing up too before I really understood what it was all about.
Exactly. Like that gets it in your head. And in America, when I was a kid, we'd say the Pledge of Allegiance every day.
A lot of people do not even realize that the actual original stated purpose for the Boy Scouts of America was to prepare young boys for the military. That is what the founder stated the purpose was.
I have a good friend. Out of 12 people, my friend Richard and I are the only two to not go to prison out of our troop. So my generation was a big fail. Oh, that's funny. We actually have a reunion on Facebook every year of the only two that haven't gone to prison.
Yeah, Hans, I would agree, that
Yep.
all countries are. It's a matter of how much of it, and it's a matter of how much of it do they acknowledge.
And how much in what areas?
I think that's part of the problem because, like, where I live, it's like Mayberry, but over the hill, it's some of the worst, crime in America is going on like 30 miles from my house. And so those people would have a completely different perspective on what America or LA is in general.
Yeah. Well, and that's where I am, as a smaller, relatively newer city. So yeah, they had a lot of examples to plan things out, and basically the city hasn't been around long enough to develop a slum.
So you don't have like do you live on the east side or the west side of your town?
Yeah, town's really not even big enough to have sides.
Sofa, do you live on the east or west side?
Again, the town where I live is not big enough to have a west side or a. I live in a small town in West Yorkshire.
Oh, okay.
I guess you could call it a town, but it's part of a city called Leeds, and
I've heard of Leeds.
Leeds is split into Leeds is split up into different wards.
Uh-huh.
They're known as, and within those wards there are towns and villages.
Do you have like scary wards that you wouldn't go into?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I lived in a really rough neighbourhood for a while, and I'm just glad we got out of there. Now where the neighbourhood where I live and the neighbourhood where my ex and my two daughters live, they're are quite decent neighbourhoods now, but there was a time when we lived in quite a rough neighbourhood.
I always wonder about that because, Doc, do you live on the east side or west side of town?
I'm on pretty much east side.
Is it nice?
But
or?
I've lived all over this town, so
Yeah, I had lived in, not like the absolute worst areas of Minneapolis, but pretty close to it. And there were neighborhoods that, I was probably the only white person for several blocks around.
I lived in a part of LA where the police wouldn't even show up, and quite honestly, it was one of the most peaceful places I ever lived. Because the people in that neighborhood kind of had an agreement, like, you don't mess with me, I won't mess with you, and they kept the reputation, but they were actually extremely, extremely good people. So it's one of those funny things. And also, where I live here, people are really welcoming and nice. But also, I live around a lot of Mormons, so I think they're just nice to me because I can afford to live here. Just as I am to other people. I'm not claiming innocence,
Although even then, compared to bigger cities, Minneapolis only has like two neighborhoods that are really that bad, but it's still nothing like Chicago or New York gets to.
We have parts here where it's well known not to go on that side of town, and I didn't realize how much it was until I had a friend. She was from Korea, and she showed me a book because she went to college in Korea, and it has a map of all the places in Los Angeles of where not to go to. And they show Hispanic people and Black people, and they also show, because we have a large Vietnamese population, Cambodian population, Korean and Chinese population, they say don't go in those neighborhoods as well. It was the funniest thing. But in other countries, they're like, oh, stay out of these parts of Los Angeles. But I'm so naive because I'm from here. Like, I don't know. I don't see it. Most people leave me alone and are nice to me, you know. It's weird because I'm from here. I live on the west side because I'm bougie, and I have a fountain in my backyard.
I was just gonna say that thing's making me want to take a leak. I'm in my 40s, man.
Me too. I come back here and I sit. I read a book. This is where I come and cry.
Oh.
This is actually I love my backyard, but it's I had to come out here early because it's going to be like 108 today.
Ay, caramba.
Yeah. And I wasted all yesterday. Like I was kind of cleaning back here. I'm still trying to fix the fountain. So I wasted the whole day yesterday and I didn't get to enjoy it. And I thought Jenny would be here. So I'll be the token background today.
Yeah, I was wondering where Jenny was at.
I wanted to show off my background to Jenny. I finally got my shit together.
Well,
No,
Will, if it makes you feel any better, you and I are having similarly terrible weather out here where I live. It's brighter than Stephen Hawking outside.
Oof.
And it sucks.
I was wondering how the rest of the country deals with the heat. I'm used to it. I encourage it and I want it. Like I love hot days. But I was wondering how everybody else deals with it.
Where I'm at, we basically get all of the weather. We get hot summers and we get Arctic winters.
Yeah.
So we are just tossed from one end of the spectrum to the other throughout the year, and it's pretty much impossible to adapt.
Yeah. Well, that's Minnesota. It's, same thing. We're right next to you. That we go from 40 below in January to, we can have about a week that's in the triple digits, which usually doesn't happen until the end of July. Although we've been having a lot of days in the 90s already, so it does not bode well for this summer.
That's what I'm scared of too, because this is August weather.
I have already run my air conditioner quite a bit more than I did all of last summer.
Well, it's 22 degrees Celsius here, which is probably quite cool for you guys in the States.
It was 40 here yesterday.
Celsius.
Yeah.
Oh wow! It never gets that high.
And I'm trying to think.
20 degrees Celsius is hot here in the UK.
Yeah, okay, that's just over 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's like room temperature.
Right now, sitting out here, it is 91 degrees. Sitting out here.
I don't think I could bear it. Living over there during the summer, I don't think I could stand it. I could barely stand it here.
This is bearable.
Yeah. Okay, 90 Fahrenheit would be about 32 Celsius.
How's it going, Jeff?
Hey, Jeff, you with us now? I think he's having some connection problems because he'd popped in before and then dropped out.
This thing is also just big enough for me to sit in it, too. So when this is over, I'm going to strip down and do a couple of laps in my fountain.
Oh, nerdy complaining about the weather is just a universal human thing everywhere.
So when I lived in Arizona, there was this unwritten law where you're not allowed to talk about the weather because everyone knows it's always hot. So if you brought up the weather, they would be like, "Oh, you're not from here, are you?" It's considered unintelligent conversation if you bring up the weather anywhere in the Phoenix area. Oh, I miss that place sometimes.
Well, I mean, it's rude if you're going to constantly talk about a problem and never actually try to do anything about it.
Unless you become like Dr. Evil and block the sun out, or it's really nothing.
Can I block the sun out, please?
So I'm not just. Let me look this up. I read in Scientific America years ago that China was building a giant solar array that we'd be able to see. I want to see their progress. Because that's something you wouldn't be able to hide.
I know it's something that we're working on, and I had seen, some pictures that I assume were more artist conceptions rather than anything that was actually built.
True. It looks like right now they have the largest solar farms on Earth. We can barely hear you, Jeff.
I was just going to say, am I barely hearing Jeff? Almost hearing?
That would be awful. But that's a great Twilight episode. Twilight Zone.
Wasn't that one of the premises of The Matrix?
Well, it's so in The Matrix, what happened is that the robots were solar powered. They gave them their own island. I'm obsessed with the Matrix lore.
Yep.
I have Animatrix. You should check it out. Anyways, so the human beings blocked out the sun, and then the robots started harvesting human beings because we are basically batteries. We're giant heating electric watery bags that are batteries. It's a cool
So
story.
many things wrong with that concept.
Yeah.
If you're blocking out the sun, you're not growing plants, so how are you keeping the animals alive?
Oh, in the Matrix, there are no animals. We are the food, basically. They harvest us and keep us alive. That's what the Matrix is.
Okay, but what are you feeding the people if you don't have any plants?
Other people,
wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
That's not sustainable.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
You don't have 100% energy transference. You're going to be going downhill.
Yep.
Don't try to think too much about the Matrix world building.
Well, that's why I'm saying there are just so many flaws in the concept.
So one of my favorite sayings is don't confuse the story with fact.
I tried this microphone then.
Beautiful.
Yep, that's much better.
Yep, there you go.
Yeah, it sounds a lot better already.
Well, that's why I think, The Matrix as a standalone movie was passable because I didn't have to think about it that much. When I start going into sequels, then I have to start thinking about the whole world behind it, and it completely falls apart.
I just thought of something about you're probably I'm sure you're right about the downhill slide thing, but maybe that's what the machines are in. That's their only source of energy, and humans are humans' only source of food, and they're in that decline.
Okay, and the machines that are
desperation.
smart enough to have built the Matrix are not smart enough to put solar panels in orbit above the cloud layer to beam the energy down.
Well, you just solved the problem.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying
And they don't need the humans at all.
Thank you. I'm going to go write a fanfic right now. I'll be back. Perp, I think you just invented something. Oh, hey, Sloth Girl. I didn't see your comment. Yeah, it's weird when I get a sunburn. It's like almost purple. Sunburns are the worst.
I get a very golden tan for some reason, and my brother gets a really red tan. Bizarre.
Color in general is weird. I tan like weirdly red, and then when I get a sunburn, it's literally purple.
Hmm.
that's why I have a giant shade structure over here. Because for as much as I'm like being cocky, like, oh, I'm a photo cell, I live in the desert, I have a giant umbrella above my head.
I might just go red.
It's actually beautiful out here. Like it's in the low 90s. I have my fountain going. When it gets over 100, that's when I'm going to be hiding in the house with the air on and all the windows closed. I have blackouts on all my windows too.
Oh, I'll probably be doing that by the time we hit 90. You have to consider Iowa has usually over 70% humidity like year round, and it gets up.
Wow.
And it definitely gets up to 80, 90 easy in the summer. It's not.
But with the humidity, I bet that's. Sorry.
What's that?
I bet with the humidity, that's really gross, though.
Oh, dude, it's freaking terrible. Like at the hotel at work, we've got a swimming pool, right? So and I have to go in there twice during my shift to take down numbers and shit. And to close it and open it too. And I just walk in. It's so humid in there all the time. Like we have to keep it closed off, whatever. And I don't know exactly why it's so fucking humid, but it's freaking awful. Like literally, I walk in there and 2 seconds later, I am just like shooting sweat, like I'm a million little tiny squirt guns, projectile sweating.
I don't know how you can take that. I was in Texas in February one time, and it was like 90% humidity. That's one thing. People from the West Coast, we are wussies, because even like right now it's 90 something, but there's barely any humidity out here, so it's just dry.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It's tolerable.
Yeah, 90 degrees is tolerable if you can keep the humidity down to less than 50%.
Exactly.
The problem with Minnesota is it gets to be 90 something with the humidity being 60 to 70%.
Oh. That's one of the reasons I moved back here, because there wasn't too many places that I could live and sustain a certain way of life. Like, unfortunately, I'm a desert dweller, and I love the heat.
I think I'm a swampy. We're flat and wetlands, kind of plains and wetlands, but it gets a little swampy around here from time to time.
Quite honestly, physically, I'm probably pretty well adapted to a desert, hot, dry climate, but that's never where I've lived.
I want to move somewhere. After this whole COVID thing, I want to move out of LA. So, but Australia, where Jen lives, has exactly the same weather where I live.
Mm.
So it'd be moving to a place where it's just quite literally the exact same weather. But I think their winters are more intense than ours.
So has anyone considered maybe all of the Australian wildlife are actually humanitarians and consider it to be mercy killings?
So there's a hey Junie. So there's an evolutionary reason. Is that a word? There's a reason why all their animals are 10 times larger than ours. It's because their chunk of the rock broke off, and they all evolved on their own. But that doesn't mean they're not scary as hell.
Ernie, we were just figuring he'll figure it out when he gets there.
That's when Jen will finally tell me the secret. It better not be like Scientology. That would be awful.
Jen's
There-
part of the
How's it-
conspiracy. She's actually just working out of a call center in Maine.
Yeah, exactly. I always say it's a bunker in Ohio. Were you gonna say something, Jeff?
No, that's fine.
Well, here's your opportunity to say something else.
That would. Do you know Neil deGrasse Tyson talks about
I'll
this?
just-
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm trying to overcome the heat at the moment. It is absolutely boiling here.
Yikes.
Just,
What's the
Did-
temperature?
it's not so much the temperature; it's the humidity here. Like I said, it'd be pretty cool by your standards. It's probably only in the early 20s, but God, the humidity is what's killing me.
No, humidity.
We're
Yeah.
expecting we're expecting thunderstorms later, I think. So
Oof.
Well, yeah, that is the thing. When you live on an island, it's pretty much bound to be damp all the time.
yeah,
Yep. I can totally empathize, Jeff. That's the way it is here. Like a summer thunderstorm coming, and the humidity comes in, and the air just feels wet. You just walk, and your skin just feels wet. It's pretty awful.
Ooh, can you hear the
Yeah.
helicopter?
so I'm sort of like multitasking at the moment because I'm just setting up my stream for tomorrow night. Like so,
What are you going to be streaming about?
I've got a former white supremacist coming on my channel,
Oh, cool. Who?
Jeff Scoop.
Awesome.
Yeah, that could be an interesting conversation, I think.
Awesome. Junie, the heat isn't too bad, but it's affecting my phone, so I can't answer in the chat because my phone is becoming overheated. But to be fair, I'm using my crappy one, so let me pull out my other phone. Let me see if I can reply on this one. Man, that fountain will put you to sleep. You got to be careful.
Mhm.
I have a hammock and I pass out here all the time. All the time, I will pass out back here.
It's gonna make me fall asleep and then wet the bed.
Oh man, my phone really is just like it hates the heat. Oh, poor phone. All right, I'll turn this one off.
Mm.
Do you have any weird triggers like that? Like the faucet running always makes me want to pee. So every time I shave, I gotta go.
Washing my hands makes me do it,
Yeah, exactly.
which really sucks because it's like you just washed your hands and now you gotta go pee. And
Exactly.
now you're gonna have to fucking wash them again.
So true. So true.
But God damn it, you couldn't do that like 30 seconds ago. And yes, I do talk to my bladder.
I don't judge. I talk to myself. It keeps it helps keeps the riffraff away. Honestly.
If it's only one sane person you can talk to, sometimes, isn't there?
Absolutely. I know exactly what I'm talking about, and I get my own jokes. So because
Yeah.
I grew up around senior citizens, my grandfather used to always say, "It's okay if you talk to yourself, just don't lose all the arguments."
Yup, there you go. I was gonna say it's okay to talk to yourself. It's even okay to argue with yourself. It only becomes bad when you lose the argument.
Exactly. Exactly.
And by the way, I talk to the sanest person on the planet. I hallucinate them every day.
I think it's when the voices in your head start running the Socratic method on you. You know you're fucked.
Hey! What if you had a dream that you were in philosophy class and you sense
That's
that
not
it's a
that's
dream?
called a nightmare.
Yeah.
That's called a
No.
nightmare.
It gets better. So I was dreaming. I dreamt I was in my philosophy class in college, and I got the sense that it was a dream. And I told my philosophy instructor, I think this is a dream. I think this is not real. I'm not really here. And my philosophy instructor started arguing with me that and asserting that it was indeed real. And she proved me wrong.
Well, we all know, but there you go. We know solipsism's nonsense, don't we? So there you go.
Yeah, I've always had the idea that if I wound up with a psychiatrist who was annoying me, I was going to convince him that he was just part of my delusion.
Where I'm from, they'd lock you up. They would lock me up. If you pull that enough on a psychiatrist, they'll. We have in California, we have this thing called 5150, where someone can declare you insane.
You're
breaking up
roboting
there.
But you have to
Yeah, you're roboting really bad. Well,
pretty.
I thought it was.
Yeah, I thought it was me for a second there too.
I thought it was me because I know I've had internet issues, but sounds like it's Will. We lost Will.
Oh,
he probably went to switch phones. Godless robot. Okay, that's one we don't have in the community yet. We've got a good handle available here for somebody.
You know that Genesis will have that one before long.
Yeah, I was thinking of Slim, but yeah, Slim's cyborg, so. Yep, Genesis should take that. So
You could be have like one of those I forget which novel it is. It's but it's a Douglas Adams novel. But the thing with the robot monk that does your believing for you.
Oh yeah, that was
in
Dirk Gentry's Holistic Detective Agency, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Because the deluxe model with the robot monk it's marketed as believes things they wouldn't even believe in Salt Lake City.
Yep. Okay, let's see what Sloth Girl has provided us with some more jokes and memes here. There we are.
Oh boy.
I was recently asked who my favorite vampire was. I said the Muppet from Sesame Street. They told me he doesn't count. I replied, I assure you he does. 2x4 seats.
I like that.
Okay, now, people, we need to be planting these. Have you seen what has happened to the price of lumber in the last year? I made this one myself, but only Lego people are going to get this. In Lego terms, a mock is my own creation. It's building your own stuff out of the spare parts.
Ah.
This one I just love. This is perfect for Pride. It's okay if you're not ready yet. And unfortunately, here is every corporation after Pride. Yeah, that's what we're going to see the first week of July all over the place. So, Jehovah's Witnesses and the cat answering, I'm the only deity this house requires.
That can't be a Jehovah's Witness because there's a cross on his
Okay.
Bible.
Well, whatever.
Insert religious solicitor here.
Yep. I've just finished writing a book on penguins. Now that I think about it, it would have been a lot easier on paper.
Oh dear.
Cute.
Well, see, it's easy for robots to believe in creators because usually they get to meet them.
I'll quote Crichton from Red Dwarf. No silicone heaven. Where do all the calculators go?
Yeah. Well, that's their afterlife.
Oh.
What do you call a group of sloths? I don't remember now. Okay, Sloth Girl, what's a group of sloths again? No. She says it's a snuggle. Or Angie says it's a snuggle of sloths.
Ah.
A snuggle? That's so cute.
Okay, and the penguins don't have lasers. I keep telling you, those are the smaller ones. The lasers don't grow in until they're through molt.
Oh, what a mess. My headphones. Look at that. Yikes. Yeah, it's way hotter outside than I thought it was because I came in here. Oh, hi.
Your headphones melted?
No, they're just, they're
Tangled.
jumbled.
Ah.
It's way cooler in here than it is outside. It's hot as hell outside. Alexa, what's the current temperature?
Right now, it's 95 degrees Fahrenheit.
It's climbing. It is climbing. Because it was 91 when I checked last time. And that was like a half an hour ago.
I haven't been outside yet, but after the stream is over, I have to go pick up my car, and I've got a doctor's appointment this afternoon. And I've got to do some running around because, you know, we're still waiting on word about Diana, but if they're not going to let her out of the hospital by, you know, tomorrow, then I'll have to drive out there to take care of her place until they let her go home.
Oofda. Kind of a long drive.
I don't think they're...
No, it's not kind of a long drive. It's a very long drive.
I actually looked at the map last night. It's a very long drive.
Yeah, it's close to 950 miles each way going through 6 states.
So that's the equivalent of driving from Los Angeles to Portland. Basically, that's like from the bottom of the map to the top of the map. Yikes.
Boy, how long?
Yeah,
is it gonna
actually, it
take
is
you?
about the same as if I was driving to Texas from here.
Wow.
Yeesh.
So pretty much from the northern border to the southern border of the U.S.
Exactly.
Wow.
How long do you think it's going to take you one way?
According to Google Maps, it's about 15 hours actual driving time.
Ooh,
So, you know, allowing 4 stops and
yeah.
getting a motel to crash halfway, you know, I'm thinking about 30 hours on the road.
Oof.
Okay, Sloth Girl says the actual term for a collective of sloths is a bed.
Wow.
That's pretty close to a snuggle.
Depends who's there.
Yeah, it depends on whose bed it is.
What the?
I'm I'm trying to think the last time. It's been a while since I've gone on a drive. Ever since COVID hit, I haven't gone on a long drive in like a year and a half.
Well, for me, the last one was the move, but even that was at 360 some miles.
Wow.
Before that was the move from New York to Michigan, which was, that was over 1,000 miles for that one in a 27-foot U-Haul.
Oof.
With 2 cats.
Sofa or Jeff, where's the furthest you've ever driven in your country? Have you ever do you own cars?
Allegedly, their car, yeah.
I'm trying not to be so presumptuous. I apologize.
Right, in one day, Southampton to Fort William, which is in Scotland. So that's quite a long haul.
Oh wow.
Yeah, actually, I don't know who did the turtle pic, but the artist's signature is on the picture. So I can send that out on Twitter later. Sarah, Diana did check herself into the hospital on Tuesday, or yesterday. Yeah, hard for me to keep track of the days even. So, but so far they've been being kind of vague on as far as what tests they're going to need and everything. Okay, Sloth Girl says they gave her more blood this morning. So yeah, we're just not sure how long they're going to intend to keep her.
Didn't she say on Twitter that she has to go on dialysis now?
Yeah,
Well, I was sure that was part of what it was going to come to. I mean, they were telling her she needed dialysis quite a while ago, and it's something she'd been resisting doing.
Yeah, because of the overwhelming cost of it.
Yup, didn't she say something about like
Randy, that's rough.
Grand a month or something?
Yeah, I'm hoping one of the things with going in the hospital is that they will make her aware of, some medical plans that she can get help with that she wasn't aware of.
Yeah, they definitely should.
Because she was like just slightly above the cutoff for Medicaid. And, it works differently in every state, but in places I've been, there's usually a thing that if you have outstanding medical bills, they can kind of use that to recalculate your income so that you'd be below the threshold and get it. Okay, yeah, Sloth Girl says they're scheduling dialysis now. So I did not get a chance to catch up on the Twitters. And last night I wound up in Twitter jail.
Yeah, that's some messed up shit.
What on earth for?
Because I used the word suicide in a reply to a public post. So Twitter automatically assumed that meant I was threatening to kill myself.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yep.
Which, of course, blocking the person from posting would be a wonderful way to handle that, wouldn't it? Because then if somebody actually was threatening to commit suicide, you're making sure that none of their family or friends would see the cry for help. Yeah. That's a great solution.
Yeah.
Bloody algorithms.
Social media in general has no idea what it's doing when it comes to things like that.
That's the problem. That's the problem. Algorithms don't have common sense.
Yeah. Well, they pick for keywords and they don't understand context. it's the same problem I have with all the search engines. It's like, why can't they have a search engine that understands not? Why can't you show me all the pages that contain this word but not this word?
Oh,
It's a really simple thing for computers to understand. Why can't they ever program it in?
That drives me insane about computers in the first place.
But the computers get it. It's the people who are writing the thing that don't.
Yeah.
Don't even get me started. Between cars and computers, I want to get rid of all of them Fight Club style and go back to horses and big hats. I'm over it. My computer's so frustrating sometimes. It reminds me when I used to read Darth Bane in my backyard in peace. I stopped making edited videos after a while because, like, it's not even that no one watched them. It's that it would take me so long to make like a 20 or like a 10 or 15 minute video. It would take me hours and hours.
Oh, yeah.
And then no one watches it. I was like, F that. I'm just going to go live.
Well,
Literally.
I want to get back to doing some more of them. But, yeah, I don't think most of my videos are only like 7 or 8 minutes, but probably take me 15 to 20 hours to produce an 8-minute video.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, as far as the scripting and I wind up having to record about a dozen takes before I can, get ones that I think are suitable.
That is one thing that I should release. My blooper reels are better than my content because I'll be serious and then I go, oh fuck. Like, it's way funnier than anything I'm trying to get across. I might make a blooper, a blooper one. It depends. I'm going to be trapped in the house because it's going to be 125 today.
This is perhaps why I just I was going to say this is perhaps why I'll just like firing up and going live,
Exactly. It's easier that way. Oh, my computer switched. You know what? I'll go to this one since it's summertime.
It's also the fact that I don't know the first thing about editing stuff together anyway, so
I've been learning the hard way, and it's actually frustrating. But I try not to bother people who know. And I have I don't know, what do you call the younger generation? What do you call people that are 20 right now? In their 20s.
Gen Z, isn't it?
I have a next door neighbor who's Gen Z, and I asked her to help me, and she was smart enough to say no because I was basically asking her to be my producer. And she's a genius because she looked at me and she was like, watch a tutorial. Kids are geniuses.
No, if she was really clever though, she would have at least negotiated a price for you to be your producer first, I think, and see what you were paying.
Well, she looked at me in my face. Oh, I'll never forget this. She looked me in my face and she was like, "You don't look crazy. Are you crazy?" And I said, "What?" She's like, "You have to be crazy to be on YouTube."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "What?" She's like, "No, seriously, you don't look insane." And she's like, "You dedicate," and she just went down the line of, because I'm pre internet. She grew up with YouTube in her life, her entire life, or watching it in her adolescence to adulthood, So like she has a different perspective because she's smart. See, she's smart. I'll never forget. That was one of the greatest conversations I ever had. Oh, she made me laugh. But she was basically saying, like, you got to get tough. You got to be thick-skinned to be on YouTube because people are going to hate you.
Oh yeah, there's I think you do develop a tough skin after a while on being on this platform, I think, or you get off of it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's another thing. There's people that I really respected that I've seen go. There's people that I thought were absolute pieces of just garbage that I watched their barge float off into the sea of trashiness. Quite a few people.
Although, you know, there is an alternative to crazy, and that's ignorant.
Oh, thank you, Junie. So YouTube has utterly and completely it always takes down my thumbnails, so I've had to like either make my own or make weird memes.
I've sometimes just made memes up because I'm not very good at making thumbnails.
Yeah,
But I was doing everything when I started. I just was recording stuff on my phone and uploaded it, and I was doing that for 2 years, 2.5 years. You know, so
I actually use a very useful app called Thumbnail Maker to do my thumbnails.
I have to learn some kind of software for doing thumbnails, you know, because I've never gotten comfortable doing any kind of image editing on the computer.
A lot of my thumbnails, because I felt so rejected by YouTube, quite a few I've taken. I took those pictures. There's one at the Ronald Reagan Library Museum. There's one it's the sunset at a fancy restaurant by my house. I got tired of YouTube taking them down, so I just started putting up my own photos. Or like it's the weirdest thing.
If you're taking pictures from a presidential museum, you'd better return them.
Man, if you even act funny at the Ronald Reagan Museum, they'll clip you out. They're not joking, man. They have parts of the Berlin Wall there. They are not playing at the Reagan.
You better not take any books from the Trump Presidential Library, or at least not before he's finished coloring them in.
Yeah. The Reagan Museum is actually really interesting because they have like a whole section about all the spies, the real Russian spies that they actually caught and prosecuted. Like, it's really cool if you look over the fact that Reagan was one of the worst presidents in the history of the United States of America. If you overlook that small, and Nancy Reagan basically ripped off America with was it the DARE program? Was it DARE? Oh no, it was it was Say No to Drugs program.
Just say no.
Yeah. Because when Reagan's presidency was over, it literally just became an office in Culver City that collected money. So the Reagans are, as we always say, I just like to remind people how terrible the Reagan administration was.
Yeah.
Because
Junie, I think the only ones who are saying that Reagan physically tore down the wall are PragerU.
No.
They actually have a video out about that.
See, now, Junie, I'm sorry.
I'm not joking. I saw Cyrus do a response to it that PragerU has put out a video about this like 10-year-old boy going back in time to meet Ronald Reagan as he takes down the Berlin Wall.
Oh, are you serious?
What?
I'm serious. It's a cartoon by PragerU.
So at the Reagan Museum, it's literally just a piece of the wall that overlooks the sunset. It's actually kind of beautiful. I'm gonna have to dig the picture out now. I have the Fire Stick in my computer right now, but the Ronald Reagan Museum is actually really informative. It's a beautiful place. When I went there, they had the space shuttle there, and they had Air Force One there. That's when I figured. I was like, the space shuttle's tiny. It's not as big as I thought it would be. Nor the old school Air Force One is the size of a Suburban. But like I said, it's a great museum. Awful person.
Goth Girl, I think that would work.
That's similar to the That's similar to the Churchill Museum in the Cabinet War Rooms, the Churchill one. Great museum, but yeah, less to me, less said about Winston Churchill, the better. So
Yeah, exactly. No, I like to remind people, because in this country, people have deified Ronald Reagan because they're not old enough to remember what he did to this country.
Mm.
I've seen a whole generation of people, like I'll see younger kids wearing Ronald Reagan T-shirts.
Hey, Reagan gave us trickle-down economics, and that's been the system our country's been running under ever since.
How's that working?
Well, come on. I just said he gave us a system. You're talking about results now.
I think because I work with special needs adults and like convalescence homes, Reagan emptied. He basically defunded the entire all special needs programs, everything that he could. And so we literally had a generation of people walking around on the streets here.
Yeah.
So because I'm just old enough to remember it, I'm not a fan.
No. Yeah, there was an awful lot of that about people with various disabilities and that, and basically all of the disability and elder care, all the systems got pretty well gutted.
And Reagan, they literally had no money, so there was nothing they can do, so they just put him out on the streets. And that legacy is still on the streets of Los Angeles to this very day.
Yes, but the major cities feel they can fix that with bulldozers.
Oh, don't even get me started on the city of Los Angeles and the LAPD, how they literally just fight the homeless. They have this new policy of just fighting the homeless. We have,
well,
you know,
they are all over. That's why the phrase, hostile architecture has crept into the vocabulary. That cities are just intentionally making it so places are too uncomfortable for people to stay around very long.
3rd Street Bridge, Pershing Square Park. They put spikes on every, 3 or 4 feet on the benches so people can't lay down. You can sit there, but you can't lay down.
Yeah, well, and that's also why even at bus stops and that, they make benches that lean slightly forward so that you can't really even sit on them comfortably, let alone if you lay down on them, you'll roll off.
And they have those really weird, uncomfortable benches too. And they have turned downtown LA into the definition of hostile architecture. It's I don't even know why anymore. It's a city saying we hate people. Really is what it is.
Anyway,
sorry.
I'm gonna head off because I'm gonna make myself some dinner.
It's great talking to you so far.
Yes.
Catch you later, Mike. You got anything you want to plug before you go? You got your show coming up tomorrow?
Yeah, well, tonight as well. Tonight there's Shooting the Shit, 10 p.m. British summertime, where we just it's just like this show here. We just just talk about anything and everything. And then on the sofa tomorrow night, the same time, 10 p.m. British summertime, where we discuss the week's news and politics. So yeah.
Awesome.
Anyway, thanks for having me, guys. And
anytime.
Yeah. And see you again soon.
Later on.
Bye for now.
Yep.
See you later.
Good to see you, my man.
Likewise.
So to summarize, I'm doing some LA bashing today too, I guess. It's all terrible. We should all go move to Mars.
Are you familiar with the Tool song Schism?
Of course I am. Of course I am. I actually I listen to Tool. Just don't judge me. I don't wear Tool t-shirts.
I don't wear any band t-shirts myself.
No, I do, but what happens is it becomes like certain kinds of people wear certain kinds of shirt. Jeff, am I way off or am I wrong?
You are not way off at all. That's precisely right.
Like, so I love Tool, but I wouldn't wear their shirt because I'm not like a libertarian. Like, go to a libertarian convention and they play a lot of Tool.
Really? Weird.
Well, like the classic one is how to spot someone who's never listened to the Ramones in their life by wearing a Ramones t-shirt.
That's a big thing where I'm from. People will call. I think it's rude to walk up to anyone and ask you if you've listened to certain songs. But in the same sense, someone will call you a poser if you look like one. I have a rule. Like, I only wear patches of bands that I've seen or places I've been or patches I've earned, you know. But
Again,
that's
something I've never worried about. Most of my music is from before anybody was born.
There's a lot of stuff that I'm into, like I love a lot of the 90s, like R&B and stuff back when people played instruments. But my thing is I like people who play live instruments. And I'm also into 90s rap. Don't get me wrong. I'd be a liar if I say I couldn't sing like every Notorious B.I.G. or Tupac song by heart.
You know, honestly, I think that's kind of cruel. I'm more a fan of people who play inanimate instruments.
Mojo Nixon and the Toadlickers have a song called Machines Ain't Music. And
so I take it you're a fan of the Muppaphones.
What's a Muppaphone?
Well, he's got a board there full of lots of little boxes with tiny little living creatures, and he pounds them with mallets.
Yeah, that was on Monty Python, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, Monty Python did one like that too, with mice tuned to different keys.
Oh, that's true ramen. That's like, is that like Gallagher? Don't sit in the front row. To completely show my age.
I remember Gallagher. Gallagher was awesome.
Gallagher was amazing. Gallagher ran for governor of California.
Really? Oh,
the first one or the second one?
Gallagher?
Yep.
The first one.
What's the second one?
Is there an actual second one?
Most people are not aware of it, but the reason that some of his later things didn't really go well is it wasn't the same guy. He sold the act to his brother.
Oh, I have heard that.
No way.
Yeah.
Now I have to go back and dig that VHS out that I have and see if it's him or his brother.
Is he a twin brother?
Oh, you just told me Santa Claus isn't real right now.
Well, you know, and it's like I remember watching him, and I remember like the last couple specials he did was thinking that something was off about him, but I couldn't tell what it was. And then, yeah.
I loved Gallagher when I was a kid. I have like 3 or 4 VHSs still in this house.
And that's why the last couple shows he did was really just rehashing old stuff, and there wasn't anything new.
The reason that I'm freaking out is because I used to always wonder why he told the same jokes over and over and over. Even when I was a kid, I caught on to that. I was like, why is he telling the same jokes from 5 years ago? Still funny. Like, I break for no effing reason is still funny.
Okay. Ox says his brother stole his act. I thought I had read somewhere that he sold it to him. But, yeah, one way or another, it was wound up being his brother was doing the same routines.
Oh, now I got to dig all the tapes out of the rafters. I have to know now. I love Gallagher.
Well, I think the famous one in America with that was Dennis Leary ripped off an entire Bill Hicks routine.
Dennis Leary was another one. But to me, Dennis Leary was trying to be like Andrew Dice Clay because I discovered Andrew Dice Clay first.
He literally word for word ripped off an entire Bill Hicks routine.
I think that's so gutless when someone does that. I would be
Yeah.
so mad.
You go and listen to Bill Hicks's routine about smokers and that, and then listen to Dennis Leary's one, and you can just see it's like Dennis Leary ripped him off word for word. It was actually pretty damn disgusting.
That reminds me, I just found someone on Twitter who is just like me, and I'm going to promote them because they do the exact same thing that I do, but I got to find them first. And instead of being a hater, I'm going to promote the hell out of them because I think that's the future, because the fashion industry is unsustainable. So pretty soon we're all going to be making our own clothes. I have to find them first. But I recently found someone and I was like, oh, that's awesome. And I like some of their ideas, but it's one thing to be like, oh, your ideas are awesome. Then it's another if I made a coat that was exactly the same as this person's, you know? Because I'm all for like lifting people up, but ripping people off, it drives me crazy.
Yep, here we are. In the early 1990s, Gallagher's younger brother Ron asked him for permission to perform shows using Gallagher's trademark sledge-o-matic routine. Gallagher granted his permission on the condition that Ron, who shared a strong likeness to Leo, and his manager clarified in promotional material it was Ron Gallagher, not Leo Gallagher, who was performing. Ron typically performed in venues smaller than those that Leo performed in. After several years, Ron began promoting his act as Gallagher 2. Ron's act was promoted in a way that left unclear the fact that it was not the original Gallagher.
I guarantee you I have a VHS with the second one, because I have basically Gallagher's whole career on VHS. That's creepy.
Wow.
There is that. So I've met my doppelganger. He works at the Cartier store in Beverly Hills. There's someone that looks identical to me. He could be Godless Sewing too. I could retire. Be like Zorro. You just hand the title down. Oh, that's creepy. But does it say that his brother looked like him?
Yeah, it said there was a strong likeness.
I feel duped. I was
I don't have good facial recognition skills at all. So like I say, I didn't really catch it when I was watching it. I just felt something was a little off, and I think it was more that his timing wasn't the same.
The older I got, like, you know, because you actually had to buy VHS tapes. If you liked somebody, you actually had to go support their stuff, you know. And one of the last Gallagher tapes I bought was like, I don't know, 90 something.
Yeah, well, in the late 80s and early 90s, you know, Comedy Central basically played nothing but stand-up comedy 24 hours a day. So I used to watch a lot of that stuff.
That's like when the History Channel actually used to play history. And the Discovery Channel would show surgery and like actually had informative things on there.
I used to watch that stuff.
Me too.
I used to watch the History Channel a lot in the 90s. It was pretty much my default. And
yeah, I mean, I'd
say back then it was actually educational.
Yeah, I'd say back then that was like the History Channel was my go-to. Absolutely.
Then it became the H-word channel because that's what sold. Let's be real. The reason they started showing stuff about World War II over and over is because people watched it.
I got to be honest. Yeah, it got to a certain point where it was like, okay, we get it. They weren't very nice people.
Exactly. I learned more about World War II than I ever wanted to know.
You know, and it was like, how many times could you recut the same footage and call it a different special?
Or colorize it. It was cool the first time I saw like World War I in color or World War II in color. But after the 900th time, like, I'm over it.
Well, I grew up watching a lot of that stuff, and I was always into documentaries, even as a kid. You know, I remember the original Victory in the Pacific series.
I have something like that on DVD, but it's about basically it's a British documentary about the end of World War II, because it's people from the BBC interviewing actual like submariners that were Nazis, or like people that were there, or like people that were there on D-Day. I can't remember the name of it. And they would show, the reason I liked it was because they were showing ships being clipped out of the air in front of aircraft carriers and falling into the ocean. They had really epic footage, and they really don't show that stuff anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know if they don't want, I don't know, it's if they think it's too hardcore, but again, we need to show footage like that. Like,
yeah, and I think that's part of the problem, that, you know, somewhere along the line they got to the idea that, you know, people didn't want to see that kind of stuff. But it's like, we see really intense fictional stuff. Why can't we see what really happened during the war, so people will remember that, oh yeah, war is horrible, let's not do that anymore.
Sloth Girl is 100% right. It's sanitization.
Yep.
I always wondered about that. And like, even back in the older documentaries, they showed way more war footage than they do now.
Well, like I said, I grew up as a child, you know, seeing just stuff that was way worse than what they'll show now.
Exactly.
Because a lot of it was, you know, the actual newsreels that were being taken by reporters who were, you know, traveling with the army units.
Well, I mean, like, how many times, like, I don't know how much they showed it on American TV on the History Channel, but the History Channel here must have showed that TV series, The World at War, like 25 times. Now, that was a brilliant series, absolutely brilliant, but it was made by like the BBC in the early 1970s.
Yep.
It's kind of like, come on,
and
you know.
I remember watching that in the 70s while I was in school.
Yeah, I mean, it was an absolutely brilliant documentary, and I'd say for the most part it still stands up. But after, like, but you know, but you got modern channels that are just rescreening it like every other week. It's getting a bit, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's how many times can they play the same thing?
So I don't know what you were saying, sorry, but it always comes down to ratings. Like, if people, because I always say, like, if they wouldn't put it on if people didn't watch it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, especially if there is an audience or like an old show, you can just keep rerunning and you don't have to bother making new content. I mean, some channels obviously survive on like just showing reruns of stuff, don't they? So
I watch a channel that shows I Love Lucy, Doctor Who, $6 Million Man, you know, the original Wonder Woman. Like, I watch that channel all day long because they have Star Trek on there too. But even in America, at least on the West Coast, our BBC shows Star Trek every day, every other day. So it literally is the Star Trek channel.
I believe on our cable service there literally is a Star Trek channel that plays nothing but Star Trek shows.
That would be awesome.
And I think we also have a Simpsons channel that is doing nothing but, you know, playing all 30-odd seasons of The Simpsons one after another.
Yeah, we've got that in the UK. It's a dedicated Simpsons channel. We call it Sky TV.
FX, West Coast FX. They have the Simpsons. Guaranteed they'll have the Simpsons on. Oh, that's so funny. I like watching the old Doctor Who's, but because I have them on VHS, I get impatient because they'll show a half an hour and you have to wait the next day to watch it. To watch the other one. Then, you know, I don't have patience like they did 40 years ago.
Yep. There had been a channel, and this went through sometime while I was living with my fiance. So, you know, 2010 to 2015, that there had been a pretty good channel that was running all documentaries. And then we noticed something, that started to go a little weird, and we couldn't quite pin it down, and found out that the channel had actually been bought by the Chinese government. So the documentaries were sliding to be anti-capitalist slants.
Oh, wow.
And, I'm not a huge fan of the American capitalist system, but, when the message gets pitched too far to either extreme, it just feels weird.
Absolutely.
I mean, you could tell it was propaganda, that this wasn't something that anyone in the U.S. was actually pitching anymore.
Chinese capitalism is just fine, I'm sure.
When my son
they
was...
try to make out they're a blooming socialist country. Oh my God. Unbelievable.
I freaked out when my son was... The only time I ever told my son to turn something off is when he was watching Jordan Peterson. I was walking down the hallway and I heard Jordan Peterson's voice. And I was like, oh, F no. I have to be a parent right now. I have to be a parent, damn it. And I was
there's limits, yeah.
No, because when he gets a certain age, he can get radicalized on his own. But I don't want my son spouting out Jordan Peterson. I was like, you can watch anything. I will buy you any documentary, any book on Marx, anything you want. I can't stand Jordan Peterson.
Unfortunately, someone with autism, you have to be more careful with, because it doesn't necessarily have the filters.
Right now, my ex-wife and I are really stamping down on all the right-wing stuff that he's watching, because he's being radicalized by it. Right in front of my very eyes.
I know for myself, that's part of the thing with autism is just, I don't have the same set of filters that most other people in the society have.
That's the one thing I'm trying to teach my son too, is objectivity, because he'll go in head over heels into something, and then I'll just ask him a few questions from the opposition, and he's like, "Oh, F, I gotta go review my position." It's good to address it though.
Well, as long as you can bring it up and he can see that sometimes maybe he has to review his position when he's got new information.
And kids go through phases. I was a Hesher, and then I went through this weird not emo phase, but I would go listen to electric metal, sit in my room and brood all day. Kids go through phases is what I'm trying to say. So I don't hold it against my son to go through a million phases. He can be whatever he wants as long as he doesn't hurt himself or anybody else,
Yeah, but again, it's something that it's not automatically part of the autism, but it is so often comorbid of just having the obsessive tendencies that, to become so completely immersed in one thing.
Oh yeah, and that's the one thing that I try to teach him, is he'll jump head over heels into something, and I'm like, well, you should review everything. When he really started getting into what he considers communism, because people say things to him in public, they're like, do you know what that hat represents? And he's like, no, I don't. So I've taught him things to say, but when you have a position, you should be willing to defend it, But with that being said, 99.9% of the population leaves my child alone. Weirdos are not walking up to him, mad at him because of his hat. I'm just saying, he has been challenged. But autistic people do fall into fanatical groups because of this. They get caught up in mass movements, but so do what quote unquote what we consider normal people, everyday people, get caught up in mass movements. How many people?
Well, yeah, that's how cults get started.
Yeah, exactly. How many people became Trumpers? I have friends I've known my whole life. A good friend of mine, we would hang out every Saturday, and a week before Jen and I announced that we were together on Facebook, he looks at me and he's like, "Oh, if Trump kept his mouth shut, he would be elected president." And I looked at him like, you know who you're talking to, right? Like, I don't want him to win. Like, I was shocked that my friend assumed that I was a Trumper just because of where I'm from, you know. And needless to say, he stopped talking to me after Jen and I announced that we were together.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to jump off, I'm afraid, sir.
Okay. Just make sure it's
So-
not anything too high so you don't hurt yourself.
Yeah.
It's great talking to you, Jeff.
Better not put that joke on Twitter. They might get the wrong idea.
Jeff, do you see my avatar?
Yeah.
I was going
Just
to
sit-
ask you about
yeah.
that one.
I'm just sitting here.
You're
Just
entering the
sitting there
world
having
of
my
pain.
coffee.
Just sitting here drinking my coffee. 9 idiots with 9-toed woman. I love that movie. I absolutely love that movie.
Me too. It might be one of my favorite movies, maybe.
I don't get the reference. I don't know what that's from.
It's the Big
Okay.
Lebowski.
Yeah. Big
See you later,
Lebowski.
Jeff.
Hold on, just
Oh,
quickly then.
okay.
Just quickly.
Absolutely.
You see the picture I've got on my wall there?
Oh, okay.
Sweet. That's beautiful.
Okay,
man.
I've got to jump. I've got to go, though, sir.
Yeah.
All right.
Fun
See
hanging
you
with
later,
you,
bro.
man.
See you later.
Later on. You know, it's one of those things. I love old cult classic movies. You know, not everybody. I still watch black and white movies. You know, not everybody's into certain genres. I don't hold it against people.
Hey, Will. Just the other day, I watched a movie I probably haven't seen in over 30 years.
What's
I
that?
wonder if you've seen it. Streets of Fire.
No.
Yeah, baby.
Oh.
It's been so long. And yeah, it definitely is cheesier than I remember, but it's still pretty cool.
So I still watch V. I still watch what do I watch? I still watch all the original Star Trek. I love cheesy. I still watch Blake 7. Like, I love cheesy.
I haven't seen the old series V in a long time.
When I'm like feeling kind of down, I put it on because it's something that, like, I've watched it a gajillion times and it's just, you know, on in the background. It honestly reminds me of better time.
Oh yeah, I was all about that movie as a kid.
That's what I'm saying. Like, all like that and like Halloween Tree by Gene Roddenberry. Those are just like, it reminds me of a certain era of when
I
I was
love the Halloween Tree, and I've never been able to find that. Yeah, I've never
never
been
heard
able to
of
get
that.
it on home video because there was some copyright dispute that they couldn't release it for 15 years.
I think the only reason that I even have half of this stuff is because I live near Hollywood. Because I get a lot of, like, it'll say property of MCA Universal. MCA Universal hasn't existed since 1994 or 5, you know, or probably before then. So what happens is someone will move, it's in their garage, you know, your loved one passes away, they send it to the Goodwill, and some vulture like me gets first pick. And I find the rarest stuff. But I honestly believe it's because I live near Hollywood, you know, and people who made the stuff, they all live around here.
Cool.
But yeah, oh man, I'm looking at my collection. I still watch Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
I haven't seen that in a long time. Like since I was a kid.
Oh, it's a good movie.
I want to see it again. I haven't been able to find it anywhere.
There's also a movie that I now remember, kids, I'm not a good influence, so don't take anything I say. But there's a movie called Capricorn 1. It's with O.J. Simpson, Sam Waterston, and James Brolin. Basically, they fake a Mars landing. I gave it away. You're not going to watch it anyways. It's a great movie.
I remember the premise, but I never did see it.
They're basically like, these guys are trying to expose the CIA or whatever, and they end up being chased by them. Back when people didn't know that OJ was stab happy. But like I said, don't take anything I say as medical advice. I love crummy movies. Oh, and there's a movie. I think it's called Dead Space. It's with the guy from V, the main actor, and Robert Picardo's in it, and the dad from Malcolm in the Middle, Breaking Bad. Yes,
Cranston?
Bryan Cranston is in it as
yeah.
well. Yeah. And it's not a cheesy 80s movie if Robert Picardo or Bryan Cranston is not in it. They are in every... I dare you to find me an 80s movie that those two are not in.
And there's a whole lot of Rene Auberjonois, too.
Tons.
I
can't believe...
I miss him so much.
I can't believe you said that. And... what's his name? I can sit here and name crummy actors all day long. What about Antonio Sabato Jr.? He was in every crappy TV show that you never watched in the 90s.
Yeah, I remember the name, but I just can't place the face right now.
I think he was in Renegades. And the only reason I know that is because I had a crappy motorcycle just like in the show.
The one with Lorenzo Lamas?
Okay, now I'm thinking of that one. Because I had a 1978 Softail that was just a Frankenstein piece of junk. And it reminds me of that whole era of those bikes and stuff. Oh, man.
Yeah, I grew up with like the A-Team and Knight Rider and Dukes of Hazzard and shit
They
like that.
They filmed Dukes of Hazzard on the far end of my town to kill any illusion, to kill every parts of it, not all of it, parts of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sloth Girl was so happy she just got a copy of Shogun.
Oh, that's
Cool.
awesome.
I don't think I ever watched
I don't think
that.
I've seen that since it was first released. So
I'm like looking over at my VHS collection.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of weird VHSs. Like I have Rush, Van Halen, Aerosmith.
see, I'm still not sold on the digital download thing, because if you've got a digital download and the place providing it goes out of business, you lose everything.
Yeah.
So I still want to have actual, CDs, so that I'm not dependent on some company staying in business, so I can still watch the stuff.
I'm not saying VHSs will last forever, but I still have multiple working VCRs, and my copy of Forget Paris is an original copy, and it still works, and I've watched it 1,000,000 times. Billy
Really?
Crystal, great movie, makes me cry every time. But, to me, VHSs last longer than even DVD would, because it's on a hard tape.
A lot of it depends on how it's stored.
Yeah.
I wondered about that.
And they rot. Those tapes rot.
Really?
Yeah, the plastic that the tape is made out of will deteriorate over time. And again, a lot of that has to do with the conditions that, especially if they get too hot in storage, the tapes will start to decompose faster.
I have a SummerSlam 1989 that I taped off of a pay-per-view that still runs. I have a bunch of old wrestling tapes. That's the only reason I swear by VHS, is because I have all these tapes from when I used to tape them when I was a kid, because we'd always get the pay-per-view, and I thought I was slick by taping it.
Yep.
Say, Will, do you remember Automan?
No.
Did you ever see that? That was like the sort of main guy was played by Desi Arnaz Jr.
No.
Yeah,
I definitely need something new to watch.
He was a computer technician for the police department, and he created Automan. He was a computer program that could digitally manifest in the real world.
Oh, wow.
Almost like a reverse Tron. Pretty much a reverse Tron. Instead of a dude going into a computer, it was a program coming into reality. and he also had a little companion called Cursor. It was a little,
I gotta check that
yeah,
out.
he was a little
I love.
computer animated, like sort of dot, sort of shiny dot
What's that called
would
again? I'm
float around.
sorry.
Automan.
I'm just gonna save it in my phone.
Yeah, and Cursor could render objects in real space. So they needed a car. The Cursor would go out there and draw lines and create a car, and they get in the car and drive away and shit.
Oh, that's so dank. It's something I've never seen before.
And it's
Heck
really
yeah.
Okay.
old.
And Sloth Girl, while I don't think Amazon or Netflix is going to go out of business, they do frequently lose the license to some of the things they carry, so then
Yeah.
it's no longer on their service.
Hi, African Humanist. How are you this afternoon? Well, it's afternoon here. That's the presumptuous American thing I do. Oh, but I love shows like this. Like, I discovered Earth 2 on Netflix, and I remember when it came out on TV, but I didn't watch, all of it. So when I saw it on Netflix, I was stoked because I got to watch all of it.
Yeah, that
And,
was
like,
pretty good.
I liked it, but everything I like gets canceled.
Yeah.
So don't take any advice from Mr. Sewing, because everything I'm into.
Well, plus Earth 2 has Clancy Brown, and I pretty much love anything with Clancy Brown.
Clancy Brown's awesome. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm biased towards that whole era. See, that's the problem, though. When you get older, you start to romanticize the era, because I used to always like my pops, because he was non-married. He used to always say that the 50s were not like the happy days, and you shouldn't romanticize the past. And basically what he was trying to tell me is, don't be like everybody else, because most people do romanticize the past.
Yeah. I do a little bit myself. Yeah.
Oh, me too. I act like in the 90s we all had 20s coming out of our pockets and we're wearing Nirvana shirts, and it wasn't like that at all.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Family Guy fan, but one of the most memorable scenes about it to me is when Cleveland goes into a Denny's, and they're saying about the Denny's having the whole 50s vibe, and Cleveland goes in there, and a bunch of people jump him and smack him around, and he's like, yeah, that brings me back.
Oh boy.
That's what I'm saying, though. That's exactly what I'm saying. My pops used to always say, like, times are always good if you have tons of money. Like, if you can afford to live in the nice area, times are always good. But if you're just like everybody else, like, no, they weren't good.
Well, it also goes along with that thing of, history is a set of lies agreed to by the victors.
Oh, damn. Right.
Yeah, until quite recently, you never heard about the darker side of any of these eras, because you didn't hear about it from the minority voices. You only heard about it from the people who were hoarding all the resources.
But that's like Juneteenth and Black Wall Street. Most people didn't hear about it until they got on YouTube and someone like yourself, Purple, or me were talking about it,
Well, I didn't know about Juneteenth until I was in an interracial relationship.
But that's what I'm saying.
And that's, yeah.
But you knew before, pre-internet, right? Is what I'm trying to say. Most people didn't even know that.
Not pre-internet. That was, like 2009 that I learned about it.
Oh, okay. I learned about it as a kid, but that's because my dad was a gun-toting redneck.
Yeah, I didn't know about it.
You had to be in that community, though, to know about it. It's something that wasn't part of the mainstream. It was never mentioned on, on TV or anything before that.
Yeah, I didn't even know about it until your video, Perp.
Yeah.
Yep, that's pretty weird.
But history's funny that way. Someone such as myself, we've had, I think it's 27 family members so far that we found out that fought during the Civil War. 25 of them fought for the Union, and they were, I think 24 of them were African American. history is funny, but people don't tell those stories because they want to say it was all white guys in the South. The population of the South was basically all black people at that time. At that time, you know, they outnumbered white people 2-1, literally, and
Well,
it was
that was-
3-1. Sorry.
Yeah. That was the whole thing about the 3/5 compromise and everything was, because, you know, the black people outnumbered the white people. And while they didn't want to give them rights, the states wanted them counted for representation in the federal Congress.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why in the Civil War you had people, and I'm not the only person that has lineage from the South that their family members fought for the South. I'm not the only person, you know.
When I was living in New York, my landlady, her family was Hungarian, and she had mentioned once or twice about her father fighting in World War II, but was always very vague about which side.
I grew up with my neighbors were German. Never thought of it. Never thought anything about it. They were always the kindest, sweetest people. Their grandson, I grew up with them. Still my friend. He lives in Georgia. Good kid. He actually helps run the Pride for Atlanta Pride. Both of them were Hitler Youth, and they were both rescued by the Americans, basically, and brought to America. Him and his wife. Hey, Jerry.
Hi.
We were talking about you a bit earlier.
Oh.
Somebody threw out a handle that we thought would fit you that nobody's used yet. We don't have a godless robot in the community.
Godless robot.
That would be awesome.
You know what? I might make a channel and put all my atheist content on there.
So how's things been going for you?
I just got back from a Kava bar called the Spookeasy. So, you know, not bad.
I don't even know what Kava is.
It's it's the root of a Polynesian pepper plant that, when brewed into a drink, causes you to get like slightly more relaxed than usual and like a little bit of a head buzz.
Okay.
Yeah. It's kind of the same feeling as alcohol, except without the headache.
Groovy.
Sounds interesting. I suppose I'll have to try it at some point.
Yeah. I recommend going to like a place instead of doing it at home, unless you know the ingredients you're buying are safe, because it's not FDA regulated yet.
Uh-huh.
Oh, what are we talking? Talking about edibles?
No, we're talking
Kava.
about Kava.
Oh, I have no experience with that.
Yeah, I just I came back from a goth speakeasy themed Kava bar.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
How do you spell that, Kava?
Kava. It's like Java but with a K.
Do they still have it in stores?
I know you can buy it online. I don't know if you can buy it in stores. I'm sure some specialty store, like an herbal tea shop, might have it.
Because I see all kinds of fancy stuff in the at my pot shop. I don't get out much, so it's got to be either the store, the pot shop, or the health store I go to, because I want to live a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Long-term can lead to a range of health problems, including malnutrition, weight loss. Oh, let me get my hammer out.
So, I mean, if you do it an unhealthy amount, like anything, you can get problems. Like, one common problem is like liver damage with excessive kava use, but like.
So I'm gonna say the old person thing. Too much of anything will kill you. I hate to be the old guy and say the cliche thing, you know, but
And like you said at the top of it was that with any type of supplements, you have to be careful, because Yeah, a lot of plants will have some negative effects if you use too much of them, and supplements aren't well regulated, so you never know the concentration that you're getting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you have to know your body too, because some people have a low drug tolerance, some people have a high.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing with Kava is that there's an inverse tolerance to it.
Oh, you were saying that the other day.
Yeah. So like, the more you do it, the more it will affect you. Because the Kava lactones stay in your system and re-trigger the receptors that are triggered by drinking Kava.
Yeah. Well, it's like alcohol. The reason we get the effects we do from alcohol is because it's a poison.
Yeah.
It's until your system can clean the stuff out, it's having some weird effects and fucking up your brain.
Yeah.
Mhm.
If I was a Pokemon, I'd be a poison type because I enjoy so many different recreational toxins.
Recreational Toxins is the name of my new punk band.
Recreational toxins.
Let's see if YouTube lets
That's got a
me
good
put up
ring
my
to it.
comment.
It is. It's very nice.
Oh, YouTube, let me put up my comment. There's my answer, Cardinal Sin. My phone is not liking the heat. I'm gonna have to use my other phone. Man, iPhones are so picky. They can't stand the heat when it gets over 100 something. I don't think any phone could. But I think people should be able to do whatever they want to. Like, I don't understand why people try to police other people's bodies. That's a big pet peeve of mine, especially religion.
Well,
Well,
if you're doing it in your own home or in a controlled environment, I've got no problem with it. It's
Agreed.
when people are doing things out in public where they're going to be interacting with people who don't realize they're on drugs at the time, that's when you have issues.
my stance on drugs has been like made very well known. I think we should just legalize everything and make sure that you can only do it in safe environments, controlled environments.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, let me give you an example. When I was a kid, and I know this sounds crazy, like I said, don't ever take any medical advice from Mr. Sewing. We would drop acid or take mushrooms and wander around our town. And we have paseos that lead between the houses. We have giant parks here. Great comment. We have giant parks here, and you know what? Back in the day, it was safe, and I cringe now because I was like a 15-year-old kid wandering around with my cousin and my friends on acid and mushrooms, But no one ever messed with us. We would go in the grocery store and buy food at like 1 a.m, and the lady who worked there, she hated the fact that we were on drugs, but like, she was a bitch to us, but she always sold us the stuff. And she would tell us, like, change your life. You guys are losers. And then we'd buy our stuff and leave, That was like the worst thing. Is that a bad thing? Is that that's not in a controlled environment,
I mean, the issue with that is that not everyone has the level of control to not be a danger when wandering society. So,
I agree.
You can't just make it a case by case thing. Like, yeah, there are some people who are high functioning druggies, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it has to be standard. It has to be fair. And the only way to make sure that nobody gets seriously hurt by doing some of these dangerous drugs would be to have it in a controlled environment. I think, like, even though there are some people who could probably, and like, I don't think should be the case for all drugs. I think this should be the case mostly for like extremely mind altering drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're high on weed, I don't see why you can't wander around. Like, I've never been so high on weed that I have been a danger.
Yeah,
You
I'm a
know,
danger to my refrigerator, maybe. That's
like
about it.
like you know, when you're high on weed, you might be thinking weird, but you're still thinking, right? And like
True.
so like I feel
Well,
like drugs like that.
I get giggly and happy on weed. I don't know about anybody else, but weed makes me happy.
okay, being high on weed, I would think that the greatest risk being out in public is that you're maybe not really being fully aware of the dangers of things around you. So I would think that probably the most disruptive something, somebody high on weed might possibly walk out into traffic and get hit.
But that's someone with a really low tolerance, or you're smoking something you have no business smoking. I'm sure it happens, but it's rare. You know what? Now that you said that, though, I'm going to completely do a 360. I got a ticket in downtown LA one time because I had my headphones on, and I was smoking a J, and I jaywalked, and I don't know if I wasn't paying attention, but there was 2 LAPD standing right on the corner, and they stood there with their eyes open like, is this guy that stupid? I walked right up to him. And they were like, ID, please. I had my wallet out. Like, there you go. You can give me a ticket. I'm an idiot, and you caught me. It was. So I don't know. I'm 50-50 on it, but I was high as hell, and I was wandering out with my headphones on, bumping the radio like a moron.
So
all you got was a ticket for that?
Well, in LA, like they honestly, were like here, you don't go to jail unless you have white stuff or a gun on you, or you hit somebody. So if you're acting like an idiot, they kind of laugh at you and they'll give you a ticket. You pay a small, at least back then. This was 20 something years ago.
Oh, well, even so, I mean, isn't it like legal now, or where you are?
I think the standard rule of thumb is that if you're whiter than the drugs you're using, they'll leave you alone.
It's well known that if you have any sort of like powdery drug or white or crystally, the cops aren't even going to talk to you. They're just going to throw you in the car and take you to the station. But if you have pot, they're just going to be like, have a good day. And it's legal here now. So like it's been like that for a while, even before pot was legal,
See where I'm at, pot is fucking jail time and/or a huge fine.
That's so just scary.
Yep.
Do you know, honestly,
the smallest fine is $2,500.
After my mom's coming over to watch the kid for a little bit. Well, they miss each other. They can hang out. I'm gonna go to the pod shop and then go to the grocery store. And it trips me out that you can't just go to a dispensary like an adult and like go buy your medicine and then go home and mind your own business. And people still go to jail for pot. It just trips me out.
Yeah, it's stupid. It's really fucking stupid.
In Florida, it's technically a fine if you're caught with it with under an ounce in public. But I've smoked weed in public in front of cops, and they don't care.
That's what I'm saying.
Nobody in Florida, except for like the Republican politicians, actually cares about marijuana in Florida.
Do you know
Everyone's
Oregon
doing
was
it.
like,
Okay, I just had to look it up. And in Minnesota, if you have more than 1.4 grams of marijuana in a motor vehicle, it's considered a misdemeanor, which is punishable by 90 days in jail and up to $1,000 fine.
That's ridiculous.
I won't pull it out because I respect your strain, but I have more than that. I have more than that within.
Is nothing.
I have more than that within hand's reach.
1.4 grams is about like a nug the diameter of this circle.
Yeah.
A fat one. A full gram nug would be dense, though. It would be dense, but it would just be a gram nug.
Yeah, basically it's saying if you're caught with one joint in your car, they can still throw you in jail for 3 months.
Okay, so that was one trippy thing that I didn't realize in the state of California. Apparently, it was legal to smoke in your car up until they made pot legal. What the cops did is they just never said anything because there was no law saying you can't smoke pot in your car because there was some weird no man's land. I don't know. But when pot became legal, they made it a DUI if you're smoking in your car. So they basically said, hey, you can smoke it at home now. You can't smoke it in your car anymore. And every stoner in California was like, it was legal. So we never knew that it was, it was legal the entire time.
All the Minnesota laws always make the distinction between if it's in the passenger compartment or if it's in the trunk. But I drive a hatchback. There's no distinction there.
So I drive a Ford Flex because I used to serve. And I technically don't have a trunk.
You know, but I'm just wondering then, if I got taken into court, could I make the argument that it was behind the back seat and therefore technically in the trunk?
I think about that all the time, tell you the honest truth, because I don't have a trunk. And if I ever did get pulled over, I take it and I just huck it in the back of all the way in the back of my car. And I scrounge for it when I get home.
That's kind of my thought, that even if I'm in the driver's seat and I flip it over my shoulder, it's going to go right back to the back of the hatch.
Exactly. That's it.
So I've only ever had to hide weed once. We got in a car accident on the way from Boca Raton to Tampa, so like 5-hour drive, right? Like literally across the entire state. And we got into an accident. I don't want to give out the details of it because it was like a huge clusterfuck. But we were smoking earlier. We were hotboxing the car, right? I had a bag with like 1.5 ounces. So that's not a small amount. That's like
a good amount. That's
like that's like plug levels. That's like you travel with that, you're a plug.
Yep.
And I had it in this carry bag. And so I just like, when the car was pulled over to the side of a road and like the cops were coming, I just walk with my bag to behind a restaurant. And you know, like how there's like you know, the generator and like the transformer and all that electricity shit. I open the gate, I walk in, I put it behind all the live feed, I close the gate, I walk back, I wait for the cops to arrive. They never found it. And I went back and got it.
I love stories like that. I absolutely,
because no one's gonna check like you know, like a 2-minute walk towards like a random restaurant to check the like, you know. So like that was the only time I had to hide weed, and I think like that was the best way to get away with it.
You know, I'm so spoiled. I don't even think of it like that anymore because it's illegal here. I remember the absolute fear. My heart would drop the second a cop got behind me if I had pot in the car back in the day. I was ready to throw up on myself. I was so nervous because, you know, back in the day you go to jail. So it just trips me out that people are still going to jail over pot. When quite literally I'm like smoking a J, talking to my neighbor who's a sheriff. You know, no one cares around here.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason why I was worried about getting caught with anything on us is because we got into a car wreck. But like, I've smoked joints with cops in nightclubs before. Nobody cares.
Absolutely.
Like, the war on drugs is such a laughable failure from the Reagan era because
I was going off about Reagan earlier. The entire like Northern California, when they legalized pot, they had to let go of a lot of cops because they had whole divisions that were only dedicated to finding growers. And those growers turned around and became millionaires overnight, basically.
Yeah.
You know, because you can grow on your own land. So now you can technically grow a certain amount of plants. And if you have a license, you can grow an outrageous amount of plants. You know?
I need to move to California.
So California, like anywhere else, is a shithole in a lot of ways. Just like anywhere else, like but I'm biased because I keep on moving back here. So obviously there's something in the water. Like every time I move away, I'm like, I hate this place. And then I go move somewhere else, and like 5 or 6 years later, I come back. but it's the one thing I love about where I live is that like it's 3 hours to Vegas, half an hour to the city center, half an hour to the beach, 45 minutes to the forest, and then 35 minutes out to the desert, which is out in the middle of nowhere, where I can literally drive on like salt flats.
Nice.
Groovy.
Yeah, so California has crazy topography.
I want to live in the desert somewhere.
My son's been watching these videos of people that made their own gun ranges, and like, let's take away all the homosexual and hillbilly and all that toxic man rage. I want to live out in the middle of the desert too. I want to like, build, like, put a giant straw man up and burn it down, like all kinds of cool stuff,
So Will's attacking Strawman.
I'm coming for your straw man. I'll burn them down in effigy.
Iconoclast.
I actually hate straw man arguments, even though I have my own set.
I try to steel man as much as possible because like I like giving myself a bigger challenge to take down, because I feel like it's more impactful if I build up someone's argument and make it better and then I tear it down. Because it's like I give them a little bit of hope by helping them out, and then I rip it away and show that even with like whatever I add, it still doesn't matter.
Still BS. I am. This is Sparta. I kick the messenger down the snake pit. I do not like arguing. That's why I try not to get in debates, because if I think my side is strong, I'm gonna come with my hammer and just keep hammering my point annoyingly. Just like, and not even deviating.
I don't straw man, I don't steel man. Best I can do is inflatable man.
So you make the arguments bigger, but not better or worse.
Or like I'm impatient. The other day, we were rewatching a horror movie of when someone yelled at Jenny and I, and the four of us just happened to be there. And but my whole point is, this person kept on saying, "Prove this, prove it." Like, and I just was like, "What's your point?" They were going around in circles. I'm impatient, so in an argument, I will literally look at the other side and be like, "What's your point? What are you getting to?" Because I prefer a conclusion. Like, we can sit there and Rochambeau all day long, but like, I prefer getting somewhere instead of just talking in circles. That's why I hate arguing. I hate arguing.
That's why I've never done debates, or at least never done recorded debates. Like, I've debated on Discord, obviously. I feel like everyone has at one point or another. But like, because unless you know your opponent, and unless you know they're not gonna, be an ass, like, you don't know if you're gonna go up against someone who's just gonna, bullshit and talk in circles and straw man and like pull every fallacy out of the book,
Or pull the Darth Dawkins. With that being said, too, you almost I've seen atheists get smashed by Christians just for the fact that the Christian knew what they were talking about, and they kept on straw manning and moving the goalposts to where the atheist couldn't do anything about it, and that particular person didn't cut them off at the pass and let them just keep going and going, but then again, they'll never let someone do that again to them. So experience helps.
If anyone wants to debate me about robots on Modern Day Debate, though, I will definitely do that, because I've thought out like robot world beyond comprehension. I am an expert on this philosophical concept. So
okay, so I was gonna argue the other side, but you're starting to sway me to your side.
Yeah, that's a problem.
I was totally like 2 weeks ago I would argue you. Now I'm like, yeah.
But robots.
Yeah, I'm totally. This whole human thing, it's over. It's overblown, man. We've ran our course.
But I really want to debate like a I want to debate a theist because I want to see how they would interpret that within God's grand plan, or like, you know, I want to see like what philosophical like opposition a theist would have towards, mech world.
Jenny, have you seen the Animatrix?
I have not.
You should check that out. It's just a bunch of short stories that like different animators made after the Matrix came out, and it's just different concepts of how the robots defeated the humans, and it's
cool.
really awesome, just awesome.
I'll check it out. Yeah, I think I saw it on either Prime Video or HBO Max or something.
Awesome.
Okay, people, I'm gonna have to wind this down here.
Yeah, I gotta go to the pot shop anyways. First world problems.
I gotta take off myself. I'm under 10% battery power, so
I'm glad your phone lasted this long, Doc.
yeah, no kidding.
You got to see. I got to show off my fountain earlier.
Yeah, I gotta get my car from the mechanic, and I got a doctor's appointment. So,
All right.
okay, so go around. Genesis, you got stuff you want to plug?
Sure. Hi, I'm Genesis Undead. You can find me at the Genesis Undead channel where I do impressions or I host live streams at unscheduled times. Basically, whenever I'm on a show and that show ends and there are people who still want to talk, sometimes I have a live stream. You can also find me at Nat One Heroes. It's a Dungeons and Dragons role-playing group where we're finally doing live episodes. My original idea for Nat One Heroes was to do live episodes, and I'm glad to see that we're finally doing it, and it's working just as expected. So catch us on Twitch and on YouTube. If you want to see our most recent episode, the VOD is on Twitch for another, I think, 7 days. And all the episodes that have been released are on YouTube. We went from episode 7 to episode 15, but episode 15 is a recap episode, so you don't have to worry. All those episodes that we skipped, we're eventually going to release them. We had like a really, really frustrating thing happen to us. So thank you for being patient. I love your guys' faces. Thank you to the panelists for hanging out with me. Thank you to Purple for having me on. And that's all I got.
Awesome.
Okay. Doc, you got anything?
Nope. I'm nobody. I'm not a content creator. So.
Okay.
Oh, nope. Doc, we love you. Okay, hold on. I got to wind up for it. Hi, I'm Godless Sewing of the Godless Sewing. You should go subscribe to the Godless Sewing channel every Wednesday. Sam Chaos, Maddie from Science Side Up, and myself, we have the Pub Religion podcast. You should definitely check that out on Sam Chaos's channel. You know it's summer because that hand waving behind me just woke up and it's noon here. So you know it's summer in the sewing casa. And every Thursday, Jen from Jen's Little Corner, Kitty, the Empress of Hell, the seamstress of sewing, and myself, we have the What the Fuck show every Wednesday at 7 o'clock, the Best Coast time, which is the West Coast time. Be there or be square. I'm pointing for no reason because the coffee's finally kicking in, and it's summer. Go outside. Go hump something. It's mating season. Be nice to people. Wear a mask, and don't be a dick.
Yeah, that's how you shill. Yeah, dude.
Okay. I do not have a show scheduled for tomorrow night because we're waiting to see about when they're going to send Diana home from the hospital. Because if they're not sending her home by Thursday morning, I'm going to drive down there to take care of her kitty and fishies and so forth.
Okay.
If I do that, yeah, it is a long drive, so not even sure if I'll be back to be doing the shows next week or not. We'll have to see how that all plays out.
Yeah.
So basically, I'm not scheduling anything for now.
Okay. She's more important than us acting crazy on the internet.
Yeah, I just dropped her PayPal link in the side chat. You know, if anybody wants to send something to help her out.
Awesome.
So I do need to thank my supporters and Vonrick, especially now, because Vonrick has sent me a sizable chunk of money basically to cover the fuel cost of driving to Pennsylvania and back.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
So, and of course, Junie, who did my avatar, and Ox, Robert X, Mikey Famine, Diana, who we're already pulling for, but is one of my patrons as well, and Greg Hartwick. Greg Hartwick has also offered to, you know, send what's needed to help, you know, support me making the trip here. So, you know, we're hoping at this point that maybe they'll send her home tomorrow and I won't have to go, but, you know, the doctors basically have to make their decision on that by sometime today. Otherwise, I've got to make sure, you know, because her kitty's okay, a couple of days alone, but, you know, can't leave her too long. Okay, so with that, everybody, we'll bid you goodbye, and, you know, we will just have to see where things go as everything gets sorted out. So, bye-bye all.
See you later.